Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Draft Capital here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. I'm Stephen Gillespie, and joining me is good friend and co-host of the show, Chris LeBron. Chris, what's up, my man?
Nothing much, Stephen, man. Obviously you see me rocking the Knicks hat, so feeling good about my New York Knickerbockers, and then always fun times chopping up with you, talking drafts, and all these prospects. So I'm excited about today's show.
Yeah, and hey, man, this is we both have shows on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio, but today is the first time that we can actually officially introduce Draft Capital on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio as well, man. How does that feel?
Another show, man. Seems like off the ball network. We got a lot of great content on Dash Radio. So I'm excited to have Draft Capital on there. The draft is, it's something that started my kind of ascent in the basketball world. Kind of got that start off. I remember having my first pod, like my first big guest. You know, was Matt Babcock and talking draft. So the draft is near and dear to my heart. Talking prospects is something I enjoy. So to get that on a bigger stage now, I've done some obviously with my show and you've done it with your show, but now to have our own exclusive show where we're talking prospects is definitely dope. So I'm excited for the world to hear us talk prospects.
Yeah, absolutely. And good friend Kenneth Cotterill is just kind of live responding. He said a couple of goats were wrong about Scotty Barnes, myself included. I mean, we could talk about that here in a little bit.
I wouldn't say wrong,
I'll admit I'm
just
wrong.
just
I'll
a
admit I'm wrong.
little, we didn't see this. I didn't see this happening this quick, but it always came down to the offense with him. Like if he figured out offense, I mean, that was the biggest thing. But like, and not to go off, but like we see this a lot with a lot of kids. Like they get kind of, held back a bit,
Mhm.
in college, and you don't see the full bag. And in the NBA, you're going to be allowed to show your bag, and we're seeing it with Cole Anthony too right now. Cole Anthony's having a
Yeah.
pretty good season. So he's at 18-8 right now. And he was one I was like, so people were low on, and I was
Mhm.
like, no, like he's actually going to be a better pro than he was in college. So it seems
Yep.
like that's so far going on with Scotty Barnes and a few other guys. But Scotty's going to be a go one once if gets that offense going and he figures out everything, the shooting. He's definitely going to be an all-star.
Well, you know who else is an all-star? It's going to be
Yes.
tonight's guest. He's listen to this, Chris. I'm just going to read off his resume. You were talking about all these other illustrious backgrounds and stuff like this. So, my man is the host of the Backcourt Violation podcast and never heard of this title before, but he is also the conductor of chaos. Never heard of this
Yes.
before. Have you heard of that title?
I haven't, but he is a social media. He's good with those videos. He makes these videos that just are, I've used a few of them to on my end, because they're just great. But he's definitely one of the best out here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And, I've been kind of low key stalking him. I'll go ahead and put it out there like that. I've been low key stalking him for a little while. And I think that we've done my man far too much of an injustice just keep him waiting in the back. So we'll go ahead and bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen,
Hey,
Tyler Rucker. Tyler, what's
uh,
up, my guy?
how are we doing? That was a heck of an introduction. Thank you guys.
Hey, that's what we do here. Ain't that right, Chris?
Yes, that's what we do. We got to big up the guest, and you definitely are one of the best out here. So happy to have you on the show, Tyler.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited to talk some draft and just excited to be here. I've been wanting to hang out with you guys and talk some hoops. So whoever said Scotty Barnes, yes, I can't believe both of you guys were wrong on him because I've been a big Scotty guy. So
Yeah.
had to get that out there. But
We'll
no,
talk
I'm
about that.
excited to be here.
Go ahead, run a victory lap, dude. That's what we do on this show. Go ahead,
No,
run a
no,
victory
I don't
lap.
like to brag, but no, I just, I exactly what Chris said. I thought it was going to take a little bit for the offense to come around. It's come around a lot quicker than I think a lot of us were expecting, but I just saw a guy at Florida State that I thought was going to make an impact. Now, I'd be lying if I said this much of an impact, but no, he's been fantastic, and this whole previous draft class has just been awesome. So it's going to be a fun year of hoops.
Yeah,
Yeah, no
he
doubt
just
about
had a
that.
play where he went three. He took three dribbles and got to the pass. Like it was
Oh,
insane. Like
it
his
looked like
his length.
Giannis. It's
Yeah,
freaky. I
it
mean,
Exactly. I was about to say that it looked very Giannis like and that's crazy. That's
Shades of
crazy.
Draymond, shades of Giannis in his game. I mean, my man's taken off. He's kind of one of these, Swiss Army knives that everybody in the NBA is wanting for. And I don't think that the defense was ever in question. But
Mhm.
like we were just touching on, that offense was kind of the area that we thought that he might could improve on in the pros. And we all kind of thought that it might be a gradual work in progress. But here he is just casually carrying the, former NBA champion Toronto Raptors on his back as a rookie. It's pretty phenomenal. So, Tyler, we brought you on today to talk a little bit about some of the international prospects. Now, for the listeners and the viewers last week, they'll remember Chris and I spoke about these guys as well. But, Tyler, before we get into this, kind of what's your philosophy when you watch prospects, when you're analyzing film, especially with the international players, right? Because it's always like a little bit of, mystery. Chris, you remember that's what we titled our last show is, the international men of mystery. It's always kind of hard to gauge how translatable their game is from the European style of play. But we also touched on, Tyler, that it's also, if you're going to be an international player and play in the NBA, now is the time to where I think that you can get the most bang for your buck. And scouts are finding it a little bit more easier to see, okay, an Alperen Şengün, for example, Tyler, he's getting a little bit of love. And we all saw the scoring. I don't think enough people were talking about the passing. A lot of people worried about the defense, but he's getting a lot of love, and he's one of these international players. What's kind of your philosophy when you're looking at a prospect and how they'll translate to today's NBA?
Yeah, it's kind of funny in a weird way. It's two different evaluations. Now, when you're talking about guys from the United States, you've usually got great athletes, just high flying players that can get up and down the court and do incredible things, But when you come to the international prospects, fun little background, which makes sense of the story. I spent actually a year coaching overseas, and I wanted to do that to kind of learn how international players, how they process, what's their mind. And one of the first things I ever got told when I was over there was, we know we're never going to be able to be the athletes that the Americans are. So we have to beat them with our mind. And if you watch international prospects, you can see that they're very detail oriented. They like to play within a system. Fundamentals are usually outstanding. They have an understanding of playing team defense, rotations, all the little stuff that I'm not saying prospects in the United States can't do, but there's just a little bit more of an importance that, hey, we can't get by on our athleticism. We got to be smart upstairs. So, guys like Luka Doncic, Luka, people were saying, hey, he might not be quick enough. Where it was like, well, he also has an amazing feel to the game and understands how to set up defenders, see lapses in the defense. So, when you're evaluating that, you got to kind of almost watch it in a different way. And it's challenging, but it's also fantastic because it's just different types of basketball that, the international game keeps growing and it keeps getting stronger, and these prospects keep getting better, and there's more of a desire to come over to the NBA now. So, no, it's fantastic, but definitely two different types of evaluation when you're watching the United States compared to international.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Chris, a good friend of our show, Zach Ramey, when he talks about these international players, he talks about the development of hip hop, right? And how like the hip hop culture has spread globally now. It's not just, affiliated only with American players, but we've seen pictures, of Nikola Jokic with cornrows and wearing an Allen Iverson jersey and things like that. Certain players in America, or domestic prospects have gone on and had great and tremendous NBA careers and have left an imprint across the world. And now we see guys, we're going to touch a few that have the swag, they have this NBA style. You refer to some of these guys as having like a New York basketball point guard mentality, right? So let's go ahead and just touch on again, how you're looking at these international prospects before we get into some of these guys individually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting class this year. There's a lot of these notable guys that have been generating some buzz have gotten off to slow starts. And I think that's from what I've heard, it's got people a little scared, just because they're kind of waiting for someone to get going, get in a good little rhythm and separate themselves from the pack. So I think there could be some movement, from what we're seeing right now. And obviously, I mean, we're only 4 or 5 games into the year with the international crop for some teams, and college basketball hasn't even started. So there's always going to be movement with boards and rankings and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting. There's some great prospects. I think there's a couple that I wouldn't be surprised if they start making some noise and start climbing in a hurry. So I'm just waiting for that stretch run where we start going, okay, that switch is hit. That guy's getting in a rhythm. He's got some confidence. And I think NBA scouts and personnel are also, patiently waiting for someone to take the next step.
You mentioned with Luka before, right? And the athleticism. And people, especially when Luka was coming out, that was the big thing was, well, he's not an athlete, so it's not going to translate. And it seems like once Luka kind of changed all that, I feel like a lot of people have changed their tune on how they evaluate a lot of overseas guys. Because now
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, well, Luka, you got Jokic, guys like that who, we might have better verts than them. If I put some icy hot on my knees, I might be able to.
Might be able to do it.
I
might get up there still. So
I might get up there. Have a better vert than Jokic. But like, how has that changed? Has it changed for you as far as evaluating guys, like not focusing so much on the athleticism? Because it seems like the last few years since Luka has come out and kind of changed the game, that like, okay, we don't focus so much on, oh, he's not an athlete, it's not going to translate to the league. Like, how have you been able to differentiate the athleticism, and not being an athlete?
Yeah. No, I've kind of talked about it before when I went on Draft Deeper with Nathan, and I made a joke with him. I said, it kind of sounds ridiculous, but when I watch a guy, the first thing I say is like, can he play basketball? Is he a hooper? Like, if I'm going to put him around 4 other NBA guys, is he going to make a contribution, or is he going to be a guy that, okay, he can't stay on the floor? Mm-hmm. And with someone like Luka, it's a rare case that I don't know if we're ever going to see for a really long time, because Luka had the resume that a lot of people were just like, well, and it was like, no, he was playing in the toughest league from 15, 16, which you just don't see there.
Getting real minutes too.
Yeah, and getting minutes and producing and winning all these awards. So Luka was just like up here, and I think that was the type of guy that we were nitpicking. Like, is he quick enough? And I was like, okay, there's
kinda
quick guys in
bit,
EuroLeague, So
yeah, he didn't have that physique either, too. So
yes.
I think a lot of people looked at his physique, and then, oh, he's not an athlete. And I think that's why people may have not been like, all right, he's just going to be another international guy with all hype and he won't be special. But obviously, like you mentioned, can he ball? Mm-hmm. And he can clearly ball, and it's not going to be the way that we think it is with the NBA with all these super athletes. He's not going to do it like Westbrook does it, right?
Right.
He's an athletic, prime Derrick Rose, he does it different, and it's going to be slow, methodical, but he's an assassin. Right. Mm-hmm. He's still an assassin. He's just going to do it in a different way. He's going to do it. He's going to, position you in a different way. And it's just, I feel like that's really changed since then, how people look at the international guys. They're not focused on the athletic ability.
Right. Yeah. And just real quick, Tyler, too, like if he's dominating and he looks the way he does and it feels like he's slower and stuff like that, how much does that also downplay the credibility of those that he's playing against too?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think for years it's been funny. There's been some confusion, if you want to put it that way, but misunderstanding is what I was looking for. But that like the EuroLeague wasn't as good of a league. If you went to go play overseas, it was like this negative thing, and it was like, no, there's a lot of guys that don't make it in NBA, go play in EuroLeague, kind of reinvent themselves as a basketball player because they got to play smart, they got to play team ball. And then NBA teams want to go get those guys back because
PJ Tucker.
Yes, PJ Tucker. there's plenty of guys that have gone over there. Mirotic, who was with Milwaukee forever, and it's a different type of game. And going back to what Chris was asking with like Luka, when you watch Şengün as a prospect, it was the exact same story. It was not a great athlete, not the quickest. Everyone was like, well, is he going to be able to defend people? And it's like, well, he was incredible with his vision and feel for the game. So he understood how I'm not a great athlete. I got to position myself to be a step ahead. I got to read players and rotate quicker. And his footwork was fantastic. So you just
phenomenal.
You had to look at those little details when you're watching the international game. And I understand that people got, salty about international prospects because we had a streak of, Dragan Bender, guys like that just
Vesey,
out.
Vesey,
Vesey. It's just it happens though with United States prospects.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And I tell people that too. Like, I mean, they're like, oh man, these international guys, they're not panning out. I was like, well, there's a whole bunch of American-born players that went top 5, the number 1 pick, and Anthony Bennett. He didn't work out. Like, there's plenty of stories of that. So, like, you just can't get sour because one international prospect didn't work out, and then like, oh no, they're all the same. If a Frenchman, right? Like with Theo Maledon, like people didn't like him, especially like in the Knicks community, because I was high on him. I liked him a lot, and people were like, nah, he's Frank Ntilikina. I was like, that's You're being lazy because it's the same number, right? He wears the same. He wears 11. He's French, and it's like, no, guys, he's not even the same player. He has more of a bag on offense. Like he's more, so it's like, that's a lazy comparison. You're just thinking, oh, Frank Ntilikina, and then you just have these, these panic attacks. And it's like, no, you actually, it's different and all that, but people get scared about international prospect. It's really, like you mentioned before, and mystery. There's so much mystery because there's, for a lot of people, they don't have the access to, right?
Exactly.
If they don't have the access and they're just getting it off, clips off YouTube that are 2 minutes long, and they don't like it, they're like, oh, he's slow. He's playing against guys
or
that
hear Stephen A. Smith make fun of a dude's last name or something.
Rostonist, or they look like guys, like the Giannis film, like he's playing against guys that are working 9 to 5s, so it's like, oh, well, how good can he be if he's playing against, just regular Joes,
Yeah, I completely agree. Go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's funny how that happens. But, Tyler, we're going to get more specific with these players. But before we do, we just want to remind the listeners that support for Draft Capital is powered by MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use promo code OFFTHEBALL, which is for Off the Ball Network, the place where Chris and I contribute to. For a great deal, MyBookie matches 50% of your first deposit and up to $1,000 cash money. Chris, it's a good deal, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. Very good deal. I haven't had a good few weeks on it, but it still is it's a very
the site's good. Chris, just don't take betting advice from Chris is what I'm
no please don't stuff. Do the opposite, please. I tell everyone, don't listen to me. Go listen to Kenneth and then the other guys and Pat on the network. Don't listen to me, man. I'm awful.
Yeah, go to offtheballnetwork.com and read Pat and Kenneth's betting articles, and you will make money. Chris, he needs to take his own advice and do that too.
Yeah, I know. I'm awful. I'm just bad. I'm just really bad at this whole thing. So,
as the kids say, it be like that sometimes. So, so Tyler, I want to lead off with a guy who I'm just going to go ahead and be completely honest with you. This is our first time working together. I want to be transparent, dude. I want you to trust me, okay? So, right now, Hugo Besson, 6'3", kind of combo guard from France. Like I said, 6'3", about 200 pounds. To me, he kind of has a modern NBA guard type vibe about him. Chris, you spoke about he gives you kind of that New York point guard vibe. Last season, he shot about 48% from the floor, about 36% from deep, 3 assists per game, and only about 30 minutes per game. Tyler, we talked about some of the guys that we might be mentioning tonight. I'm really big on Hugo Besson. Don't go breaking my heart. What do you think about him?
I like him a lot. Really intrigued I watched his games last year. He could shoot it. He's got a really nice touch to his game. He's got just a good feel, an offensive kind of shooter's mentality where he has that little wiggle that can come right into a beautiful looking shot, and he's not afraid to shoot it, which is good, but he's also just got to like to see the outside shooting numbers come up a little bit. And the only negative part about him really is that, his age. Usually these international guys, they're 18, about to be 19 when they're drafted, and Hugo's going to probably be around 21 on draft day. Now, I'm one of the guys, like, I love production. I don't really care about an age. I was in love with Chris Duarte. I didn't care at all that he was 24. So I think exactly, if you can come help out and be a solid player, fine. Unless you're 36 years old as a rookie, then I'm going to be okay with you. But no, really like Hugo. Going to be intrigued. There's two prospects we're going to talk about, including Hugo, that you've told me, and they're both going to be playing in the NBL this year, which is a very physical league that is getting really good in a hurry. I think Hugo's probably got the better chance to kind of adjust to that league quicker, just because, he likes to shoot from outside, but he's a little nasty. Like Chris said, he's got that New York mentality. He's a little tough. He'll get right at people and get downhill. So I'm intrigued with him. I'm thinking he's one of those guys that, he kind of dipped his toe in the water for last year's draft and then kind of went back, and I think he could heat up again. It's if he can produce at the NBL with that type of physicality, I think Hugo could be a little bit of a riser.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Chris, I want to ask you this question, and obviously Tyler, feel free to chime in on this as well. I think that Tyler did a good job of pointing out the level of physicality that he's going to be enduring in the NBL. What we're seeing in the NBA, Chris, we were just talking about this not too long before we started the show, is that the rule changes in the NBA and how much they're affecting some of these kind of super mega stars that we've been watching. And, their production has gone down a little bit because they're so reliant on being able to get to the free throw line. That's changing. So now here we have Hugo Besson going to play, from France. Now he's going to be playing in the NBL. It's a little bit more physical. We have seen a lot of guys who succeed in that league come over to the States as of late and produce at a really high clip. How do you think that change in the location where he's going to be playing, the league that he's going to be playing, do you see that actually being beneficial, kind of like how Tyler was just saying?
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be beneficial, and I think always playing in, playing with older guys, like, and we mentioned Luca, right? He was playing with grown men at 16 years old. I mean, just think about just think about when you were younger, playing against older guys. Like, yeah, it's that physicality, and that can teach you a lot, just all that. So I think this is definitely going to benefit you. And like you said, we're seeing all these rule changes. He's gonna come into the league and understand that, because we're seeing guys who are 10-year pros struggling with this. We're seeing James Harden struggle. We're seeing Bradley Beal shooting 34% from, I think 35, 36%
ridiculous.
From the field.
And the Wizards are good.
17% from three. Like, he's struck. Booker's averaging 18 points a game. Like, we're seeing, some of the elite players struggle with. So now, we're going to see, some of these guys who are playing in these tougher leagues, have the, be able to adjust once they come to the league and be prepared. Where we're seeing some of these guys who are so used to, manipulating the rules and that struggle a bit, and not adapting. But it's crazy how much it's changed the game so far. We're not seeing a bunch of guys averaging 33 points a game, which could be beneficial. We're seeing more physicality, which is something we definitely want to see. And I definitely enjoy more and more physicality and all. I think most people are appreciating that, so he'll definitely be ready to go. Like I said, we mentioned with him last week, he's one of my favorite players in this class, and I'm really looking forward to see how he progresses as a player this year.
And Tyler, I want to kind of give that right back to you. I talked to Chris about the rule changes. Think that Hugo's going to be able to kind of take advantage of that with the coming out of the NBL a little bit, or you're kind of at a wait and see? I know it's really early on, and we don't got a lot of current film on him for obviously for this season that he will be coming into the draft, right? So what do you think?
Yeah, I think he'll be ready to go. That's the one thing about the NBL is you'll find out in a hurry. They're gonna push you, they're gonna challenge you, so you can't be soft in that league. So I think Hugo will be ready to roll. Similar guy, like not as tall as him, but Josh Giddey was a little thin-framed Australian guard that got pushed around in the NBL, but look at what he's doing as a rookie right now.
Oh,
So
man.
I think
Off to a good
those
start.
those international guys, they're a lot tougher than people from the United States think. I promise you, I know it. There is some dogs overseas. So no, he'll be good to go, because if he isn't good to go, the players in the NBL will let him know right away. So.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, one of the notes that, I hate calling it a weakness, Tyler,
Mhm.
because obviously these guys are young, even though he's kind of older for a young guy, if that makes sense, right? But I like to focus on kind of like areas of improvement for them. And one thing that, based on the film that I saw, Tyler, I think that he has a tendency to go for more of the pretty play than maybe sometimes the right play. And now I know in the NBA kind of has done its best to facilitate that level of play. We're looking at guys like LaMelo Ball given a heck of a season, and he throws these over his head without looking across the court, to the corner passes. I could see Besson giving those, but sometimes I think that might give the best of him. What are some of the areas that you saw that's like, okay, you agree that he looks really good, but what are some of the areas that give you a little bit of concern?
I would see the shot selection. It's going to be like that when you're coming from, I don't want to say lesser leagues, but when you're the guy and you're the clear
Yeah.
guy, you're probably going to take some more confident shots. And, Hugo's got some shots where, he's catching it flat footed from 6 feet beyond the arc, and all of a sudden splashing from deep. And you're just like, whoa. But he's also taking some of those that aren't close. So you kind of need to just balance it, and you want to see strides in other areas. You want to see, can he be a creator for his teammates? Can he drive and make the right reads? I mean, that's going to be something that, especially playing in the NBL, they're going to want to see if you can not just be an outside threat, you can also be a more complete guard. And I do think Hugo's going to have a chance to really, start buzzing. I'm a fan. The more I've watched him, the more I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to circle that name and track him as much as possible. Like, there's just a lot of tools I like with his game.
For sure. And a lot of these domestic players that, come November 9th, when the season kicks up, it's going to be hard to remember to go back to these guys. I'm like you, though, Tyler. He's a name that I have circled, and I know that, on maybe a weekend or an off day, I'm going to be like, all right, let me see what Hugo Besson's up to, instead of watching, the Pac-12 be a really good, league this year or division of the NCAA. But we'll shift gears now. And Chris, I know that we both like this guy too, Nikola Jovic, and he, up until I started
Look at my smile. Look at my face.
That's the smile everyone's gonna have, Chris. I promise.
I grin. I'm like a kid at Christmas. Just when I hear that name, I just smile. I just love this guy.
And it's not Nikola Jokic, it's close. It's Nikola Jovic. And Tyler, again, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I like you a lot. So Nikola Jovic is the guy who was my number one prospect until I started looking into Hugo Besson film. And just because I have Hugo Besson as my number one guy, I know that NBA players are really against being called number twos. They prefer the term 1B. He might be my 1B guy in this year's draft. What are you thinking about Nikola Jovic and how he'll translate?
I don't know if love is a strong enough word. No,
that's the perfect word.
Hey man,
Tyler,
let's just air it out.
That is the perfect word. You could say it. You could say it. I'll say it for you.
I'll give you both sides. I'll be realistic. I don't want to sugarcoat it. We want some harsh truth. Absolutely love him. I'm very intrigued, very excited to watch him throughout the year. Great size, intriguing playmaking abilities, got some wiggle. I think he's around 6'10".
Mm-hmm.
Just sees the floor well, kind of knows what to do, and he's aggressive and playing in a really good competition with Mega. Serbians are monsters.
Yes.
I We'll say that again. Serbians are vicious monsters. Like
Something
man.
about that cold weather environment. If you can,
hey,
hoop
it's
and
nice
dash.
there. I've been there. It's great.
Tough.
No,
It's
very fun
tough.
city. But no, Serbians just, I don't know how to explain it. They just have that mentality. And if Chris wants to say New York mentality, that is Serbian
Oh,
mentality.
it's on a different level. There's New York
they
and
are-
there's Serbs. You don't mess with
yeah.
Serbs.
They're nasty. They practice hard. They work hard. I mean,
Mhm.
they're everything you want. But I will say he's gotten off to a little slow start.
Yes, he has.
And it's definitely with the outside shooting. I think he's going to be probably the darling of international prospects at the end of the year. I think everyone's just going to be so intrigued with the tools that he has, but I'm patiently waiting for the stretch. He needs to have a stretch of like 3 or 4 games in a row where he's producing. And I think before coming on here, I saw his last game. I think he had like 12 points, but
Yeah.
2 for
12 and
2 from
6,
outside. Like,
Yep.
so just get some consistency. Now let's see a little stretch of games. But no, I mean, he's great. The excitement is real. The tools are real, but just need to get like, I think what I was talking about earlier, I think he's the guy that could separate himself from the pack. But he needs to flip that switch. And it might not be for a couple weeks. It might be towards the end of the year. But I do think that, you know, from what I've heard, there's plenty of fans. They just are waiting for the leap, if you want to say it that way.
Yeah, and Chris, we talked about this last week. You know, he's essentially what we would look at as like a freshman prospect in the States now, right? He's still super young and he's already got a couple years of professional basketball under his belt. Let's just talk about what he did a little bit last season, to where guys were, you know, looking at him and saying, ooh, you know, he might be like he could do a little something in today's NBA. He averaged almost 12 points in his play for Mega Baymax, as Tyler alluded to, shot about 49% from the floor, only about 27 from deep. And Tyler, I'll give this to you just real quick. Shot mechanics. What do you think about when you look at Nikola Jovic and his shot mechanics? Do you think that he might need to kind of do a little bit of polishing? Do you just think that it's there, but just for whatever reason, it has a hard time being consistent? What do you look at his long ball and what might be there that's kind of honing him back a little bit?
I mean, he's a big boy. He's 6'10", and like you guys said, he's 18. You know, like he's gonna take some time to develop a shot. I think, I understand when a guy has a shot that's brutal, but I don't think he's in that category. But these guys are gonna work on it throughout the year. Denny Avdia was a guy overseas that everyone was questioning his shot, and then all of a sudden, end of the year, it looks like he's put on some weight in his upper body and the shot looks all smooth. And everyone's like, wait. He just had 4 games of shooting 45% from 3. What's going on? So I think we fascinate with how we can nitpick prospects. Yeah. And I'm guilty of it too. But I also think, when it comes around to the end of the day, like these guys are going to spend time working on it. They know that their shot's struggling. They're going to put in some work, and, they're going to get shooting coaches that work with their mechanics. So if he continues to shoot 20% the entire year, then we could start to be like, okay, getting a little nervous now. But I'm one of those people of like, okay, I've seen the shot in the beginning of the year. Let me see how it progresses. If it's still not falling, then maybe you raise some red flags, but still a little early. Just with a guy like Jovic, he knows what his specialties are. So he's not going to be falling in love with the 3 ball because he's like, I'm 6'10", I could put it on the floor and get around people. But, NBA guys are going to want to see eventually, like, okay, can you become a more complete player? And I think we'll see. But I'm not too worried about it now. If it shows some signs, then that'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, I'll give this to you. Just, 3 assists per game, that looks nice too, especially considering the fact that he only played about 26 minutes per game. So you kind of prorate that out. If he was to come over and be a starter, you're looking at a guy who might be able to give you, 4 or 5, maybe 6 assists, with consistent play time. I look at him as kind of a combo forward, about 6'10". It's one of these that depends on who's measuring him. He's about 200 pounds. Chris, we talked about him last week. Let's go ahead and just kind of recap some of the things that make you so smitten for Nikola Jovic.
I just, like you said, his for his size to be able to do what he does with the ball, his playmaking and all that. I know people, like we mentioned, like, that first game, people were going crazy, right? With him, because he had such a great first game, right? And then, like, next few games he struggled, and like you said, recently, his last game, got to kind of bounce back, But I like you said, with the mechanics and all that, it looks, he has good mechanics. Like I see, like, it's like you mentioned, like if it was kind of funky and it wasn't going in, like that may be some cause, but I feel like he's young, like we mentioned last week, Steven. He's young.
Yeah.
All right. And then once he gets to the NBA, he's going to have the best coaches, in the world, So I think he'll be able to develop all that. But to me, what I see is the playmaking. I absolutely love all that, the ball handling, all that. Like you said, he's got some of that, that flair, that to him that I really love about him. Like the size is there. I trust that the outside shot will come. I do believe that, and just gonna take time, with him. And like I said, we're waiting for that to see him with his few shots, and maybe we'll get it. Like I said, his last game he kind of bounced back a little bit, so maybe we'll get that stretch where we'll see his outside shooting, be more consistent. This is about consistency, but like I said, he's young, man. These guys are all young, and I saw someone criticize Durant, and I'm like, he's 17 years old. Like we're doing too much, We're doing too much, he can't do this, he can't do that. I'm like, what if I criticized you at 17 years old? We like come
Please
on, guys.
don't.
And getting stronger. And that's another thing. And Steve, we're talking about like strength. I don't think that's a weakness. I think that would have been the thing with Giannis, right? We talked about that last week. Giannis, he needs to get stronger. Well, look at him now. He's super
lightning in a bottle. I mean,
that's going to happen. You're going to get stronger, right? When you get to the pros, you get in that regimen, get in the gym, you'll get stronger. So I think those are things that people worry about, but I just love this feel of the game and all that. And like his post, I like him in the post too. He has some nice moves in the post. I like him a lot. I know the outside shooting needs work, but he's definitely, he has all the tools to be a really good one. And like you said, set himself apart from everyone else in the international class.
For sure. And Tyler, he has what I like to call, DPS, dribble pass shoot game. And I think that that's going to be very helpful for him moving forward. And, hopefully he'll get it turned around like we were just talking about. But we'll bounce from Nikola Jovic to Rucker Perkison. Now, Tyler, he had a lot of fanfare last season. There were a lot of guys clamoring him to be a lottery pick. But, he saw what a lot of scouts were saying, was listening to them, and decided ultimately to pull back. And now it looks like if he's having as strong of a season as it looks like he is already, this year might be the year that we see Rucker Perkison, come stateside and play NBA ball. What are your thoughts on Rucker?
I like a lot of people, I was shocked when he, fell out of the draft or recalled his name from the draft. I really like Rucker. I think, at first I was just like, whoa, like withdrawing his name. I was just kind of shocked, but I thought I don't mean to, if Chris, I'm sorry if I jump on you, but I thought the lottery like talk from a lot of people was a little like, I understand it. If you have your guys, go with your gut. I'm always a big person of that, saying like, hey, don't listen to the consensus. If you love a guy and you want to put him 10th, don't care that everyone has him 38th. Like, just do it. So like, I understood the love affair with him. I really am intrigued with him. I think the playmaking is something that's waiting to come out to the surface, because I see him make a couple plays in transition, like these passes that I'm like, whoa, okay, like where did that come from? So I'm really pumped to watch him throughout the year. I kind of love the gamble that he took, that's saying like, no, I should be a bigger pick. I should be going higher in the draft.
Making a little money helps too.
Yeah, exactly.
A couple more million.
Yeah. It was interesting when the draft was getting closer last year. I was kind of asking around, and I was like, what's up with Rucker? And I had heard he was just kind of struggling in camps and workouts. I heard he just kind of was like, he looks like a solid guy. He just doesn't look like a guy teams are going to be like, oh, we got to take him middle of the first.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was kind of probably saying, okay, if I'm maybe a late first, second round pick, why don't I go back? I'm still young. Let me work on my game. Let me show them that I deserve to be potentially a lottery pick. So I love the gamble. And like you guys said, he's been producing.
Like 44% from deep this year, which was something that
100%.
a lot of people were concerned about.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
Last time I looked, 44. Yeah, it should be all right if he keeps doing that all year.
Especially after you said Bradley Beal is around 17. That's
17,
pretty good.
17%.
No, but I like Rocco. I think, he might not. Scouts might not see him as like this early lottery pick guy, but scouts are going to see a guy that's a really solid basketball player that might play in the league for a long time. I mean, he's one of those guys that needed to grow into his body. I thought another year's great decision when you look at the long-term picture because he can add some strength. He could be a little bit more physical. Just if the game slows down, which he's doing a great job so far, I definitely think he could make some noise and climb up. But he's just going to be a fun one to monitor. And Croatians are great prospects too. I just saying, like, this is a fun class. The deeper you go, the more upside there is all over the place. But no, I definitely like Rocco.
Yeah, and you touched on one aspect of his game that I think kind of separates him from a lot of the other guys that we're going to talk about, Tyler. And Chris, you chime in on this as well, obviously. The aggressiveness. I think that he has a desire to want to attack the basket. And I think that is going to be one of his biggest strengths. Now, obviously, if he can balance that, if he can continue this walking a tightrope of, do I want to attack the basket on this play, or do I want to maybe spot up, play off ball, run off of the Flair screen perhaps and splash home a three? That's going to make him more difficult to cover, obviously. And when you can kind of have those kind of diametrically opposed, ways to attack a defense, I think that'll help him out a lot. Chris, let's go ahead and what are your thoughts on Rocco again?
And he's got some size to him too. He's not like he's not 6'10", 180, 190 like some of these guys. He was 215, 220. So he's got some beef to him, which is going to help him out once he gets over here. But like I said, I was surprised too, that he took his name out, but he must have heard something to where he wasn't a guaranteed first round pick and all that. And he bet on himself, and it can go either way, right? You bet on yourself, and it can. We've seen plenty of guys who bet themselves, and they don't get drafted, or we've seen guys bet themselves and they become, a higher pick. So far he's playing great. Like you said, shooting 44% from three. I liked him a lot, in last year's, draft cycle. I think he has everything, great playmaker. I saw someone say TJ Warren with more ball, with more awareness, vision. And I was like, I mean, that's
that's nice.
That's a
worse players to be compared to than TJ.
I would take that. I would take TJ Warren,
especially bubble TJ Warren is a Hall of Famer. So
one of the best players we've ever
vision.
seen.
You add some vision to that. That's a good player. So I heard that one. So I read on that. I was like, well, you know what? That's a good player. That's a good player. You had that court vision with TJ Warren, but
as long as he can stay healthy, obviously.
As long as he can stay healthy. Obviously, the outside shooting needs a little bit of work, but he's on a he could definitely be a lottery pick this year if he comes out. He's definitely on that trajectory. With everything going on in the season so far. So he's a good one. 6'10", like I said, the size, the playmaking. Has everything. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to like with Rocco.
He's what you guys hinted about earlier. You guys were talking about, he's a little aggressive. It's so funny. He's nasty. Like if you go back, and I watched him last year when I was evaluating him for being a prospect, you get to this one game, and I think he dunked on like 3 guys on 3 like consecutive possessions. Like the third one, he was like hunting people. He's basically like staring them down from half court. Like, okay, I'm going to go dunk on you next.
Like Mike Allstott running the football, right?
Oh, it was just ridiculous. So, I mean, he's not afraid to go at like bad intentions when he's attacking. And
Jermaine Taylor,
Rocco's going to be
speaking
fun.
to my heart.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you gotta watch it. But no, he'll be one to watch. He's definitely on the top of the list. You gotta circle him.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we'll shift gears. And Tyler, we kind of were alluding at this point of conversation that we knew that we were going to have when we, we're going to get on this show. And one of these players that I saw that you were kind of publicly scouting over Twitter was Ousmane Dieng. Now, we talked about his teammate to be in Hugo Besson. I think that Ousmane's going to benefit quite a bit playing off of someone like a Hugo who has gravity, someone who's going to be able to take not only his defender to the basket, but he's going to pull some help away. And now Ousmane, to be completely fair, one of the criticisms about him in his very young very young professional career is his shooting and his efficiency. Now, I'm sure, Tyler, you said you're a coach. Now, I'm sure one of the biggest things you have to teach these young guys is that not everybody's Kobe Bryant, right? Not everyone is going to be asked to make some ridiculous shots. It's all about finding who has what role on the offense, and whenever maybe a guy ahead of you in that pecking order, it's not his night. What are some of these ancillary skills that you have that can kind of help alleviate him struggling? And I think Ousmane has plenty of these ancillary skills that it's going to work beautifully, in my opinion, playing off of Hugo Besson. Tyler, what do you think about Ousmane Dieng, and what kind of player do you think he might end up becoming, if you can prognosticate for me?
I would say this is the one that's buzzing right now. A lot of people around the NBA, especially guys scouting overseas, that's the name they keep bringing up. They're saying we're just waiting for Dieng. We're hoping Dieng's gonna show us something. I think definitely this is a guy that could climb in a hurry. And when you watch him, because you got to go back and watch his full slate, just because the footage is so hard to find sometimes, but he's got to travel down that rabbit hole. So but no, watched a lot of him lately, just trying to get a kind of a feel. Really raw,
yeah,
but love the tools. Super young, love the tools. Really good shiftiness. He can create some space in a hurry, but he's raw and
absolutely
he's skinny. I think he's around 6'9", a little less than 200 pounds, like 6'9", 190.
Depends on who's measuring him that day, as I like to say.
That's what I always joke about.
It depends if he goes to McDonald's.
6'9", go to 6'8".
He goes to McDonald's, he's 196.
Scout really likes him. He's 7'1".
Exactly. Can't stand him. He's 6'6". No, but he's listed everywhere from 6'7" to 6'9". I think he's going to be 6'9", though. But
still room to grow, literally.
Right.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Yeah,
that's the scary part.
Still he's 18. He's going to be really young 18. Everything looks nice when you watch him in games. Like the shot looks pretty. He's shifty. He's slithery through traffic, but the numbers aren't there. And then when you keep watching him, you can see that he's got some wild shots. He's got some shots where he's got no one around him that he's way off. So that might just be getting used to your body and all of that fun stuff, which is really annoying to watch as an evaluator. But my only concern with him is, with him and Hugo going to NBL, my hot take, if you want to put it that way, is I think Hugo is going to be able to translate a lot better. I think Dieng could struggle because he's just thin.
Yeah.
And, I've seen some photos, just because I'm a psycho that likes to creep, but I've seen some photos of like him at media day with the Skybreakers, and it looks like he's filled up a little bit. So I'm sure he's going to be, mentally thinking he's going to be prepared for the physicality, but I love the tools. I think he's really, really intriguing player with some serious upside, but I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles those first couple of games, just getting used to a whole new world of basketball when it comes to the style of play, how physical it's going to be. But I think long-term with potential, he could be a fascinating talent, a lot of creation, dangerous threat, but we'll see how he adjusts right out of the gate.
Yeah. And Chris, we talk about these young guys all the time. these dudes literally can get drafted, and then over a summer they'll grow. Like, I think I quit growing at 18. I don't know how NBA players just magically do it. It's
I stopped at
fascinating to
15,
me.
man. I thought I was gonna be like 6'6". I was trained to be like a center. I'm like, I'm gonna be a D1. I stopped. I grew. I'm the same height since
Little Chuck
since
Hay is going on, 6'6"
yeah.
center a little
I was
bit.
Chuck Hayes. I thought I was gonna be taller, and like, no, never happened. Never happened. For me.
But man, Dieng, I love the confidence, and Tyler, as a coach, I think that you have to find that balance. You're gonna have to let him go out and grow and make mistakes. And I think playing with a guy as well traveled and as well established as a Hugo Besson, you're gonna be able to afford to gamble a little bit. But Chris, that confidence, it has people concerned, and sometimes we just say, okay, these guys are young, giving them the benefit of the doubt, but sometimes they just don't know how to not take a shot that they just fall in love with over and over. Do you have that concern with him, or do you just think that it's just going to kind of he'll figure it out as he continues to grow and develop?
I mean, that's the thing with a lot of these young guys, whether international or domestically here, is that confidence, right? Because you're in high school, you're the guy. So now you're playing, you're going to go to the NBL, and you're not the guy. You're going to have to learn how to play within the system, right? So having confidence is good, but then we all know there's overconfidence. There's taking shots that, if you're feeling yourself that you shouldn't take, within the system and all that. So I, like Tyler, like you mentioned, there's a lot of those shots where you're like, oh, that's not that gets you on the bench.
What are you doing?
Now playing, like playing in high school, whatever, they'll be, coach will be like, whatever. But you playing at in the AAU levels, but playing NBL, you're gonna go on the bench. Hey, you can't do that. So can he adapt to that? Because, like you said, there's some wild shots.
Right.
There's some wild shots that he's taken. So that's gonna be the biggest thing. Can he adapt to that too? Because we see a lot of kids. They get down themselves if coach shook me out with this. So just dealing with that adjustment. But I thought that's with a lot of young players. So I'm going to see how he goes. He has all the tools, like that's 6'9", has just very confident player. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops, and I'm very intrigued to see how he does this year with in the NBL, because it's like I said, it's physical, and he is a skinny boy. He is a skinny boy, so he's going to have to learn that physicality, and adapt to that.
And going off what you just said, real quick, Chris, like a guy that just came to my head that's kind of a similar, physique, similar build that played in the NBL is RJ Hampton. And talk about a guy that struggled a little bit to adjust to the league because he was younger, wasn't as physical, like wasn't built out yet. But then he got some confidence building. And I think when you have all these notable prospects that are going to play in these leagues and stuff, we expect them to just all of a sudden come out and drop 25. And it's like, it's not going to happen often. You got to let these guys get an adjustment to the game and show some flashes, and then build some confidence, start to show us a little stretch of like, okay, now everything's starting to click. Now they're starting to show that they've got a good understanding and feel for this type of game. But I think a lot of people might wave the red flag if he struggles with his first couple of games. I'll just be like, hey, just pump the brakes. Let's let him learn a little bit first.
Let him figure it out.
After 4 games, after some of the the rookies this year, like some people do, which is like I
crown him.
I can't stand when people do. Oh, this guy's a bum. It's like it's.
They say Jalen Suggs is no good anymore.
Yeah, he's Jalen Suggs is trash.
Hurts my heart so much. I love
come on,
Suggs.
guys. Like, oh, he's a boss. Man, it's crazy.
Everyone clicks at the different times. Not everyone's the Ja Morants that come out swinging or guys like that. It just takes time.
Some guys, like Steph Curry, others that have taken several years. Tyler, I believe that you spoke on this.
Look at Bradley Beal. Like he started. It was progression. Like everyone hits at a different rate. Like and especially with everyone coming in young now, 18, 19 years old, it takes time to develop. Not everyone's LeBron James where they're 25 and and 8.
You don't say.
Luca, where they come in, they're ready to, they're ready to play. They're all NBA players. Like, I think that expectation is kind of crazy, but exactly how that is, man. It's wild.
No doubt. So, gentlemen, what we're gonna do, Chris, you're familiar with this. Tyler, you're a pro. I'm sure you're used to this as well. But that's going to kind of put it into it here for the radio segment. Now we'll continue with some analysis for the podcast. So teaser for you, everyone listening on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. You're going to have to come follow and subscribe, rate, review, share, all that fun stuff. Go look up Draft Capital anywhere you get your podcast. But Chris, as host, as experienced host, we're going to do the gracious thing. Tyler, you got a lot going on, man. And we even kind of teased it on, our first show where we started analyzing, you're friends with a lot of dudes that we've done work with before. We're growing in our, friendship analysis and stuff like that together with one another. Tell us a little bit about, No Ceilings and all the work, all the tremendous work, by the way. Love everything that you guys have put out so far. Just kind of tell the listeners here on Nothing But Net, kind of how that came to be and where they can go to find your awesome work, man.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Originally I'd started out my own thing with Backcourt Violation. I just kind of wanted to I've been scouting and doing the draft evaluating process for years. And I kind of finally was like, okay, I want to get my work out there. I want to kind of share my thoughts with people, and maybe I could interact and kind of get some momentum going with this basketball thing. And it's been fantastic. Met a lot of people, communicated with a lot of people. And, from there, I was doing it kind of all on my own. And I kind of was like, hey, I've been monitoring a lot of guys that do some good stuff in the draft community. And I reached out to my buddy Corey, and I was kind of like, hey, what do you think about teaming up, trying to make a run at this? And from there, it turned to him adding someone and me pulling in someone. And now we've got about 9 guys, and we're just basically trying to create a platform that everyone can come and get all of their draft content and get caught up and educated about the process and what's going on. And it's been fantastic so far. I'm really excited for what we've got going on this entire year, and everyone kind of brings their own specialty. It's just like the pieces coming together, and it's going to be fantastic. I couldn't be more excited, and very lucky and fortunate with the group of guys we've got together. So it's going to be fun. And we're at No Ceilings NBA on social media, and we've got a Substack going. That's been great with a lot of previews going about that. So yeah, it's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are Avengers out there. You just
we're trying,
everyone.
man.
You guys, I saw the roster. I was like, oh, I had to hit Corey. I was like, Corey, you got yourself. Hey, you got a squad.
We're trying, man. We're trying.
Yeah, and like I said, like you guys are really good. It as individuals, and then you got all you guys together. Man, yeah, I'm looking forward to. I'm already subscribed to the Subtrack. I'm reading every time you guys are posting something. I love your work. The draft guide. That was my Bible. That was my Bible.
I appreciate the way
you set
it up.
A lot. The way you set it up.
A lot of lonely hours with that.
The way you set
it
up.
Bro, if anyone can relate, bro, you're preaching, man. And you're a creator's creator, and the rest of you guys are too.
You make it fun because it could be, the draft process could be very, it could get boring for some people. Like it's like, all right, well, this guy, everyone has the same, takes and all that. You add a little spice to it, a little flair to it, right? So that's why I've seen, why you've had a nice following and people like your stuff. And then just with your draft guide too, it's different. It wasn't the typical, all right, pros, cons. It had a little flair to it, it had a nice color. Like to me, it you added a lot to it that I liked. That wasn't the typical, all right, we're just breaking down pros, cons, shooting chart. All right, this is what needs to get comp. It was more than that, and that's why that was my go-to guide. I went through that and I showed other people, and then they purchased it. It was just like, then and I'm looking forward to if you guys can do more, because that was great. You got. I mean, a lot of I'm sure a lot of hours went into that, and I truly appreciate you putting that time in, because I'm sure it took a lot, but it was great work. You kill it, bro.
Thank you very much. No, I that's exactly what we're trying to do with this. We're trying to make it a little more fun and get some people involved, and share our knowledge and our joy for the draft process. And we're also trying to do some NBA stuff where we're going to be break down players and young rookies around the league. So it's going to be a fun year. I'm excited, but I'm very happy that I was able to come on this. So thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Chris, as always, it's going to do it for us here on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. Thank everyone so much for tuning in and listening again. Content's not going to stop. Go follow us over anywhere podcasts are available. Go look up Draft Capital, iTunes, Spotify, all that fun stuff. We're there. But Tyler, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Chris, as always, it's a pleasure doing work with you, my man. And as for Draft Capital, we are out. Much love, everybody. All right, so now continuing here with the podcast. Thank you everyone so much for coming over from the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio and subscribing. We're here with Tyler Rucker of Backcourt Violation and the newly implemented No Ceilings collective that they have going on over there. So Tyler, we have discussed Hugo Besson, Nikola Jovic, Roko Perkison, Ousmane Dieng, and now Yannick Zosa. Now,
yes,
I love Chad Ford and his work. I listen to him all the time.
I know that sentence way too familiar. I respect Chad Ford, but I know where this is going. And I love Chad Ford.
The ultimate DUT is coming.
I don't understand the buzz of Yannick Zosa being potentially the number one overall pick or being worthy of consideration for that number one pick. Now, he's tantalizing defensively, but Tyler, offensively, I don't know what he is. Now, granted, he's stupid young, right? Like, that's the one thing is like there's like he's a blank canvas offensively. And you're potentially going to be getting like this kind of how everyone was with Alexei, Pokachevsky. Offensively, he's just a big unicorn. I think that you're getting kind of the inverse defensively with Yannick Zosa here. He could do so much for you defensively. What do you make of him as a prospect?
Terrified. So that's pretty much how I could say it. No, I got a little drunk with the buzz before I kind of turned on the tape. I was a little intrigued with the idea. When you're throwing around the idea of a Clint Capella, which he was compared to, is like this tall, great athlete, runs the floor, can dominate defensively and shot block. I was like, yeah, that sounds fantastic. I love that idea. And he's a little thin. Then, he struggled this year. He's not producing like everyone was hoping with the buzz. And, I talked about it. I've asked around and guys are just like, hey, if he keeps playing like this, he ain't going to be in the lottery. Like the guys are like, he needs to turn it on and quickly. And it's just one of those things where, yeah, like the bigs are always going to have us like drooling and excited, especially when you got some athleticism like Yannick has. But I think everyone's like, okay, where's the guy that we were hoping to see? It just hasn't been there yet. Now it's early, like we talked about earlier. It's very early in the season overseas. Guys can all of a sudden get scorching hot and everyone's going to be like, there, see, told you. It's exactly what we were expecting. But little nervous, it's tough with his game offensively. It's so raw and still coming together. So if you're not dominating on one side on a nightly basis, it's tough to be like, okay, what am I getting excited about here? Like the long term or well, we'll see. It's just, like I said, it's early in the year, but he's definitely got to kind of flip the switch and start producing at a high level to get the conversation of being the potential top 10 pick.
Yeah, and Chad Ford's allowed to be wrong early just like anybody else.
For sure.
I've been married for almost 12 years, Tyler, so I've been wrong a lot. Just I know what it's like to be wrong, especially in the early going. But, obviously hoping for the best for this young man. But, you're looking at him being measured around 7 feet, 6'10" to 7 feet, somewhere in that window. Thin as a rail, almost kind of gives you a little bit of the Chet Holmgren vibes, but just for an international type player. And again, defensively, how often, Tyler, do you hear, he can guard 1 through 5, like if he goes out to guard a guard on the perimeter off of a switch on a pick and roll, he's going to be able to stop them. Like, it's almost like a buzz or a trigger word. It's like, if you want to draw attention to a player, that's what you'll say is like, he can guard 1 through 5. Like, that's just like, oh wow, okay, let me go watch some tape on this guy. But Chris, we talked about him. Tyler basically echoed the same sentiments we did, man. We said Raw is Monday night, so what do you think about Yannick here?
I mean, Tyler, yeah, he hit it on the head. Like, he's
Terrified.
the ultimate boom or bust prospect.
Mhm.
It's literally going to be either he's going to be a star or he's going to be out of the league. He's international Chet, I think he's international Chet. Like, it's,
I love that, Chris. I don't mean to interrupt you, but that might be my favorite thing I've heard. I love that.
He's international Chet, and I think that's some of the concerns I have with Chet too. Like, just obviously Chet's probably a little bit more, obviously, because we've seen him more too with Chet. Obviously,
there's a following, there's the preconceived understanding that this guy is gonna be a prominent figure in draft circles.
Yeah, so they're very similar, but yeah, it's tough to evaluate him. He's tough because it's
very
just, like,
young still.
He's still, like you said, what, he's 17 still.
Yeah, 17, might be approaching 18 now. Last I looked, he was 17.
Yeah, so it's still super. It's tough to evaluate right now. Going to have to see some more as he progresses. Like I said, he's off to a little bit of a slow start. After having a good, good year last year. So, got to see some more from him. The outside shooting, obviously, with a lot of these people, a lot of these guys, is going to be the concern. So seeing that, obviously, the strength thing, that'll come with as age. He's still a baby, so I'm not too concerned with that. But just the feel, no, like he's tough. He's tough. Like, I've seen people have him top 5, and then I've seen him people don't even have him on their board. So, like, he might be the big, like, one of the few prospects where the range is as far as I've seen prospects have wide ranges where it's, maybe top 10 till that late first, second. He has a range that I haven't seen in a long time where, like I just mentioned, like, top 5 buzz, and then no, I won't even draft him. Like, so he's very polarizing. So I'm very intrigued to see how this season goes for him, because he's definitely an enigma right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could play it safe and either say he's going to be a top pick or he won't get drafted at all, and odds are you're probably going to be right if your range is that wide, right?
He's either going to get drafted or he's not. I'm going to go on a limb.
I mean, there's a lot of insight there in that statement, but Tyler, there's a couple other prospects, that we've had that we want to discuss. And, I know that you can do that. You're Captain America, you can do this all day, right? But, a couple guys that I know that I have seen you talk about, one of them was the aforementioned, Ousmane Dieng. And now I saw that you recently put up a video of a guy who's kind of sneaking up my board as well. And really big fan of his game. Chris and I talked glowingly of him last week. Malcolm Caslin.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just give it to you, man. What's your analysis? What's your vibes on Malcolm so far?
Pretty similar to Hugo, where I think guys are going to be scared of the age, and I'm like, no. I like the tools. Really intrigued. I watched him and another guy just like Hugo. The more I watched, the more I was fascinated. Like, smooth little lefty. Good shot, shifty, can get downhill, can get through traffic. I just think he's one of those guys that people are going to kind of warm up on again if he can produce at a consistent level over the year. Because there's going to be one of these guys on this list that all of a sudden scouts are going to be like, okay, things are coming along. He's showing us something new. He's showing us that he's getting better. And, Malcolm's a 6'6" guy with some good size that can create on the perimeter. I was a fan, and I want to see the outside shot be a little bit more consistent over the year. But so far, so good. And, is one of those guys that, just like Hugo, I was circling. I was like, okay, yep, I will watch that one. Like, I'll be tracking that closely. So I'm happy that you guys are fans, though. I like to hear that stuff.
Oh, dude,
I like to hear them not always crazy.
No, I mean it's good, and if you're crazy, you're amongst good company. You know what I
Thank
mean?
you.
What's the Alice in Wonderland with the Mad Hatter and
We're
and
all
the
mad
hair?
here.
We're all mad here. There you go. I'll be the little mouse in the teacup, twinkle twinkle little bat. But no, Malcolm Caslin. Chris and I were speaking glowingly of him. 20-year-old Frenchman, 6'6", about 200 pounds. I told Chris he kind of gives me a little bit of Alec Burke vibes. I don't know if you see that, like a young Alec Burks.
That was a perfect comp. That was a perfect comp.
Chris loved it. It was just kind of off the cuff. I didn't really give that much time. It might not be my final comp, but it was just something that he kind of reminded me of. And one thing, Tyler, that I noted about him, just in my preliminary initial just infancy of study, that it's going to continue to grow. Our opinions are going to change and vary with more evidence that's presented before us, things like that. But Malcolm, one thing that you can't take away from him, one thing that's not going to change, is the growth that he has gone through every single year that he has demonstrated as a professional. And I think that there's going to be a scout that's going to be just so prudent, and they're going to say, I don't know what it is about him. I'm not saying that this guy is going to be the next big thing, but one thing I know is that this guy is going to help our club. He has literally helped any club that he's been a part of. Every year he's gotten better, whether that be as a ball handler, whether it be as a defender, a rebounder, a shooter. I mean, we're talking about a guy who shot 33% from deep at one point, depending on the league that he's in, but it continues to grow. And that's something that you have to look at. If it's one thing, Tyler, to look at a young guy and be like, oh, okay, I project him out to do this. But if you have like some sort of trend analysis, you can just look at numbers and you can look at film and you just be like, this dude just keeps getting better. He's good at basketball. That's what really stuck out to me. Chris, Malcolm Caslin, I know that you're a believer. What makes you a believer in him?
I like the outside shooting. I think he's going to be like the Alex Burke thing. I think that was a perfect comp. Like just a lefty version of Alex Burks, and like just someone who's going to be a spark plug, maybe off the bench. Like just like Alex Burks is. Obviously going to have his hot and cold starts, just like Alex Burks, but there's room for guys like that in the league. So that's why I like his shooting. And I, like you say, shooting to over 40%, and I think that's a role that's perfect for him, coming off the bench, being a spark plug off the bench. And I think that's what he can be, has some 3-level ability, so I think he's going to be a solid. And there's a lot of good Frenchmen, in this potentially coming out. So he's definitely one of the better Frenchmen coming out, and gonna interested to see where he lands. But like when you mentioned the Burks, I saw just a softball version of Alex Burks, and I thought that was a perfect comp because it's a very similar type of style to play and all that. So I think he could be a solid one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, Tyler, man, we have a couple names. I'm just going to throw them at you. We didn't script this, so I'm getting to see Tyler kind of shoot off the cuff a little bit here.
Let's party. I got it.
I know you got it. I know you got it. So I'm going to throw out 4 names, and I just want you to go down each name and tell me some of the things that stick out to you in your initial, observations of them. Khalifa Diop, Gabriela Procida, Tristan Vukovic, and Mojave King.
Okay. Khalifa, guy that's been making some noise over the last couple of years. Pretty much the opposite of Yannick, just big boy, like strong build, can do some stuff around and do some damage around the basket. I just, when I briefly watching him, I want him to be a little bit quicker. It seems like everything's a little loading and like slow processing. I think if he could just start to kind of kick it up another gear or another notch, teams will be intrigued. But definitely a big man that, especially if Yannick's fallen, he might climb just because there might be some intrigue of having a big like him. I need you to say Gabriel one more time because you just said that perfectly and it was unbelievable.
I can't say the way you said
the
it.
thing is, Tyler, you have to hold, like, people are listening, they can't see, but you got to hold your hands like this. You got to pinch. It's Gabriela Procida.
I know, but it was just so perfect. I didn't want to try it. So
I can't even try to do it. That's why he's the lead. That's why he's the lead, because I can't say names like that.
I love him. From what I've watched, I'm incredibly intrigued. Like,
then let's pause here. We're not gonna rush. We're not gonna rush. Let's wax poetic.
Okay. I thought you were firing squad me. So
no. We'll party. You like to party. I like to party. It's hot. It's hot rod time right now, right? So, Gabriela Procida, I'm gonna let you wax poetic on him, and let's dive into his game.
Okay, so little 6'7" wing, around 200 pounds, 19 from Italy, as you could probably have guessed from the perfect pronunciation. But I just am very excited to kind of watch him progress. His outside shots, like, it's weird to explain. It's like a little robotic, but not terribly. But when he's got a really high release, and his rotation is gorgeous. I mean, it's one of those guys, when he gets up and everything's set, he's got a beautiful shot. So I was like, okay, he could be a little bit of a lethal floor spacer, like good size. But then you just keep watching, and he's really underrated athletically. Like, he can get up, and he can fly, and he can get downhill and dunk on people. So definitely some intriguing tools. He's a name that was kind of buzzing last year, and I thought it was smart that he went back. But I'm definitely intrigued if he can become a more consistent, all-around threat, because he's got a beautiful shot. And it was in small sample. I think he only played around 15 minutes a game, but we'll see how he progresses because I definitely think he's got the tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I noticed is that he looks like he might be able to give a team that he goes to maybe not primary, obviously, maybe not even secondary, but dare I say tertiary playmaking. Like, he looks like he has a little bit of that DPS, that dribble pass shoot game. Chris, we talked about that too. The shot was the biggest thing that stuck out to him, but we were also fans of what we can fall in love, and we can say, like, that shot creation, or that's one thing, but creating for others, I think that there's a little bit of that in his game too. Chris, what do you think?
Excuse me 1 second. My dog is going a little crazy. Right?
Okay, it's all good. It's all good.
I got distracted by the dog.
Dogs do that. Dogs do that. But Tyler,
go.
Well, touch pass.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What do you think of the playmaking potential that Gabriela might be able to give a team?
No, I think it's one of those. We know what he can do. We just kind of want to see if the rest of the game could come around. Briefly of Saul, like, he's got some flashes, but now you need to see it over a more consistent level. And that's the thing with these guys, is you quickly find out what they can do. And then you're like, okay, where do they need to improve? And I don't like calling it like a weakness. I just like saying, what do they got to improve on? What do they got to improve next year? So I think that's the situation with him right now, is really good shooter, beautiful shot, got some athleticism. When he's got a clear lane, he could dunk on anyone.
Straight line athlete, pretty much, right?
What else can he add to his game that could entice NBA teams of an idea of, hey, maybe this guy can come in and be a rotation asset early on, or maybe this guy's got upside that he can turn into a great complementary piece a couple years down the road. So yeah, it was one of those guys that I was not expecting a lot until I turned on the tape, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, this was fun. I'm glad I did this. So I'm a fan.
I didn't get that initial pop, but then this is why I was like, all right, let's pause. I want to hear a little bit about your analysis on his game, and which is totally fine. Not everyone's always going to look at the film the same way. Chris and I, we co-host a show together, and we don't always agree.
He's a sneaky good athlete too.
Yeah, I think that's
sneaky
what popped.
Good athlete.
That's what popped to me was the athleticism. I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, because
But
Steven got me on because when he said the name, I was like, when he said that name perfectly, I was like, all right, I gotta watch more of this guy, and then I
My
started
secret
watching
is I Googled it, guys. I'm sorry.
oh, it's okay, but it's the pronunciation. You can't pronounce it like that.
Yeah. I remember watching one play in particular. He just gets to the and he dunks it with ferocity, and he's
Yeah.
lifting himself up. Yeah, I thought he was gonna do like put his feet.
Little
No,
dip.
no.
The Spider-Man from Man One.
Yeah,
I thought he was gonna do the
yeah.
same
I thought he was
thing.
gonna Spider-Man it and put his feet on the backboard and do all that. I'm like, whoa, I did not
Yeah.
expect this, but sneaky good athlete, and he's someone I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but he's when Steven mentioned him last week, and then I started watching a little bit, I was like, oh, okay, I saw that, and like, okay, I liked what he doing in open space. Okay, I got to watch more of his stuff, but yeah, that's what popped to me was that one play. I was like, whoa, I did not see that. You don't expect that. You didn't expect that. So I was like, okay, I'm intrigued now.
And the shooting's there too. So if he can be that straight line athlete and he can hit some threes, there's a home for him somewhere. And obviously one of the other areas that I would like to see him improve is what kind of team defense can he fit into, and I feel like that's almost like an easy, sort of critique with some of these international players, but in all honesty, that's an area that I have for him. So Tyler, we had two more guys that we want to talk about. Tristan Vukovic and then Mojave King. What are your analysis on those two guys?
I'm really, I would say the guy I got most intrigued by right away was Vukovic. I just like stuttered there.
It happens, man.
So his deal is he's the classic international guy playing in EuroLeague that's really young, that's struggling to get consistent minutes, that's playing for a powerhouse.
Yes.
And I think people chase the fact of they look at his stats right away and they go, well, he's only averaging 3 points a game. Like, he can't be that good. And it's like, well, he's playing 10 minutes or,
he's
what
not
I'm trying
playing
to say.
AAU basketball.
Exactly. It's a big deal when you're in the EuroLeague and you're getting any minutes. And I don't care if it's garbage time, whatever. Just
especially
jumped
when you're
at
18.
me. Yeah, especially when you're 18. And big boy, 7 foot, around 230. And just immediately when I started watching him, like, he took a three and I went, oh my gosh, like, he just has a gorgeous shot.
Nice release point too.
It's high release point. The fundamentals look good. I was kind of like, okay, big fella, you got my attention. Now you can see there's still plenty to figure out. I mean, We're not talking about Şengün from last year. We're talking about a guy that 18, he's got to get the feel down. He's got a lot to work on, but he's one of those guys that you're going to want to monitor throughout the year because maybe he plays another couple of games where he's playing some nice minutes. He just kind of gave me that vibe of, like, I brought him up earlier, Nikola, like, kind of one of those floor spacing assets that be able to stretch the defense and make an impact that way. But I need to see more. And like when I reached out to some people about him, they were like, he doesn't play much, so it's hard to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to have a great feel. So that's the one thing about guys like that. You got to kind of pick your spots, and obviously you'd love to be able to watch him around practice and stuff like that. But it's going to be definitely an interesting one to watch throughout the year.
Yeah, and that's if he does come out, I mean,
right,
he
exactly.
has that luxury to where he can say, maybe this isn't my year. But the height, the high release, Chris and I were talking. I was like, Chris, just imagine kind of like a Mehmet Okur, like a young Mehmet Okur type.
Yeah, that's a good
player.
One too.
Yep. So, Chris, we were talking about him, and then we also had Mojave King. Now, there's a lot of buzz around Mojave coming into this draft cycle, and from what I've seen, Chris, again, same thing. We can just keep saying this over and over. It's still young. It's still early in the season, if it started at all, depending on the leagues that these guys are in or whatever. Still has plenty of opportunity to change it. I think that the hype is kind of overmatched from what I've seen so far on the film. Now, granted, he can make a believer out of me, but Tyler, what's your gut check on Mojave?
There was some buzz with him last year. When he was in the NBL, a lot of people thought he was going to be another guy that could kind of make some noise and maybe get drafted last year. And it just, the consistency never really stuck. It was kind of like you'd see flashes and then all of a sudden he'd disappear for a couple of games. And then, you watch him on the good nights and you're like, okay, there's something there. There's definitely talent. There's a good little shot from outside. There's some athleticism. You get why people are so intrigued. It's just one of those things this year you need to see the consistency finally come around. He can't be one of these guys that has 20 one night and then has a stretch of 3 games where he's getting 5 or 6. You need to see him take that next step, because I get why anyone would be intrigued with him. I mean, right away I was like, okay, it looks like a hooper, but you got to produce. You got to show on a nightly basis that you can do that. And, maybe last year was just one of those things where it's a young kid that the confidence never came around. Maybe this year it starts to finally show and the game slows down for him. I mean, he's definitely one that every scout's going to circle because of they had big hopes last year and they're wondering, okay, is he going to look like what we thought he was going to be this year, or is he going to be the same guy? But I definitely think he's another one that you got to keep on your list. You got to keep on your watch list.
Yeah, and I mean, in the early going, Tyler, I think last time I counted like 173 dudes on my board, and the season hasn't even started yet. So, Tyler, that list is only going to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, you'll lose about 30 of those pretty quick, too. So that's just how it goes.
That's just the way it is sometimes. But
yeah, it happens.
One thing about Mojave that sticks out to me, I'll speak on the good parts, is that he is a very determined basketball player, if that makes sense. He's very persistent. If his first crack at a basket doesn't work, he's not afraid to go back in there, clean it up, and do it again. I mean, he'll follow his own misses. He'll follow his teammates' misses. Very active hands on the defensive end. It's just the efficiency with the shooting, the finishing ability in the paint. Does he have that, secondary, tertiary playmaker ability that everybody always wants all these players to have? Chris, do you get a chance to watch any more Mojave? What's your take on him?
I like some of his off-ball movements, off the ball, no
Hey,
pun intended.
plug. There you go.
No pun intended.
On the
at
pun.
all.
I had to do it.
I had to do it before the show ended. I had to do one. No, but like you said, he's confident, but playmaking needs a little bit of work. Just not going to really, wow you with, with a lot of his playmaking and assist. I know he had a very low assist to turnover ratio and all that, but definitely someone I'm going to be watching more of. Like you said, Steven, you mentioned him a few weeks ago. Going to definitely watch more of him, but has a lot of skills. 3-and-D type player, potentially, but I'm definitely intrigued to watch more of him. But he has a lot of things to like, but there's also things he needs to work on, like most guys. So I'm very intrigued.
And if we've just seen, kind of the lowest that we're going to see of him so far on his very young short film, and it's only going to get better from here, then this guy might end up being like a really good NBA professional for quite some time. Not saying star, but 8 to 12 years in the league, that's a lot of dudes don't get to sniff that. So that's very good territory. Again, my preliminary infancy evaluation of guys. But Tyler, man, that was we did it. We ran through the gauntlet of players. If you were counting, for those watching or listening, we went through 10 international players, and Tyler demonstrated for us, Chris, his international flair. This is what I'm going to title the name of this episode, is Tyler Rucker's international flair. It helps. And Tyler, just completely honest, had no idea that you coached overseas, so you just added more credibility to the title. I think I kind of spoke the title into existence a little bit, if you will. But Tyler, man, it was a treat. It's a pleasure. We've been talking, for quite some time before we finally got to do this work together. So glad that I've gotten to know you a little bit. So glad that you were able to come on Draft Capital with me and Chris. Once again, man, for our listeners, why don't you let the people know the projects that you have going on and where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm at Backcourt Violation, which is at Backcourt V, but new project is at No Ceilings NBA. We're doing a lot of good draft stuff, team of analysts and going to have some NBA content all over the place as well. But thank you guys so much for having me. Anytime I can come on here and talk draft or any type of hoops, I'm here. So just let me know. And I'm really
Everyone heard him say it, Chris.
Yeah. I'm saying it, but
everyone heard him say it.
Wait, before we let you go, why do you think the Knicks are going to be the #1 seed and win the championship for the first time since 1973? Why do you think that's going to happen this year?
Yeah, rumor has it that Tyler
because Derrick Rose is the sixth.
They're going to win 70 games. They're going to go 70-12, #1 seed. Only one loss in the playoffs. That's my prediction. Only one loss because you got to lose one, right?
Yeah.
And then
even the Warriors didn't win at all.
Even the Lakers, right? The Lakers they let they wanted that moment with AI, let them have the step over, and then they dominated. So just let me know why you think they're going to win the championship.
I will give you some love, some Knicks love, real quick. #1, I think they potentially have the 6th man of the year in Derrick Rose.
Okay.
And #2, my boy Obi's gonna come along nicely, but everyone needs to.
Where did you have Obi on your board? Let's just.
Where did I have Obi?
Yeah, where did you have Obi?
I had him 6th.
Okay, I was a little bit more ambitious. I had him 2nd.
I had him 6th, but I did not think he was going to have a good rookie year. So yeah. I'm not saying I'm a wizard. I'm just saying I think this is the year Obi's going to take a next step, and then I think next year he's going to be even a bigger step. I mean, it just takes time with guys like that.
Bigs need time.
I love the Knicks. Yeah, bigs need time. Guards need time. Everyone needs time.
Plus, I mean, Julius Randle is essentially playing his position, so it's hard. And then Julius Randle decided to be an All-NBA second-team player. So, like, where was the minutes coming? So
it would have been a completely different story if Randle doesn't all of a sudden have a career year and look like how amazing it is. And I love it because I loved Randle coming out of college. But that's also a big thing with prospects. It's fit. It's where am I going to get my minutes? Like all of a sudden, Obi goes from lottery pick to, man, I can't even get on the court because the guy in front of me is balling. So
exactly.
The Knicks, they're doing it right. They're adding pieces to the puzzle. They're being smart. I love the draft this year. I think those guys are going to be great contributors eventually. Like I just think they're doing what you're supposed to do. Finally, Chris,
Tyler,
they're doing it.
I'm trying not to cry because those words you just said were just so beautiful, but it was it's true though. They're finally doing things right, so it's definitely exciting.
Hey, you're excited now. Just wait till you get the Miles McBride treatment, my man, and you're gonna be really.
Man, what
the Knicks fans
will burn.
I was on a Knicks Knicks live draft show, and I was like, when we drafted Deuce, I was like, he may not immediate impact right away, but when he starts playing, they're going to love him. He's going to be a fan favorite for years to come. So that was a steal getting him in the 2nd round. I can't believe we got him in the 2nd round, but that was an absolute steal. And he's going to be embraced at the Garden, and the Deuce chants are going to be running wild very soon.
I'm one of my favorite fits. I'm telling you. I mean, that dude is a gamer. When he gets on the floor, when he gets a shot, they're going to be like, we got to figure out a way to play this kid. And it's a great problem to have. You know, it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. I was really big on Quickly too. I'm glad to see that he started off hot and is looking really good for the Knicks as well. But Chris, man, that's going to bring another episode of Draft Capital to a close. A little teaser alert. If you didn't get enough of the No Ceilings crew, rumor has it, Chris, that our guy, Albert Gim of the Draft Act podcast, is going to be making an appearance here on Draft Capital. So the hits just keep coming, man. We have bangers, heater after heater. We're getting these guests lined up, man. And Tyler, again, thank you so much for being the first one, man. Just, came in here and hit a walk-off home run with us. So really appreciate you coming on, man. We're going to be chopping it up all year long. You already know that's what it's going to be. But Chris, why don't we say something nice to the people before we get out of here, man?
And like I said, Tyler, appreciate you coming on. Like I said, big fan of your work, for a while. So it was definitely fun to finally have you on and chop it up, talk draft. So like I said, can't wait to have you back on again, when the Knicks finally win the championship and we can celebrate together and all that. But man, you're a monster. You're killing it at everything you're doing, man. So continue success with everything you're doing, man. Keep killing it.
Thank you guys so much.
Dude, absolutely. Flowers upon flowers upon flowers for you and your crew, man. But as for Draft Capital, representing the Off the Ball Network. Go to offtheballnetwork.com for all of your sports needs. This has been Draft Capital, and we will catch up with y'all next time. Much love, everybody.